Shabbat Shalom again, guys. If you probably could notice, I'm getting over the sinus stuff too, so we'll see how long my voice lasts on this one. It was struggling through some of them liturgies trying to get through there, but we'll make it through it. I'm feeling a lot better. It's just still got a lot of days of coughing and stuff. It's kind of rough. With this, we're getting this lesson with it. Let's say me and Chase, we was backpacking and stuff and hiking and doing our things. You hear stories of people who got off path, got off trail, and you want to make sure that you stay on trail. And the good thing is you go to a good state park, good people, they upkeep the trails real well. There's trail markers. The trail markers gives you insight of what's coming up or where you're going, where you're heading to, and that's honestly the same exact way that God's ways are. He says, He will direct your path. He'll lead you through that. So with this, I thought this would be a good title for it. I don't know. Just please stay on path. Please stay on the path. If you get off, you'll know, and you just got to quickly kind of get back on. You don't want to get off path. That's where the poison ivy is. But sometimes bears come on your path. We didn't see any good, thank goodness, that day. But yes, the poison ivy is all over off path. So with this, let's look at our parsha real quick. Tetizei, which is Tetizei is the Torah parsha, which means when you go. When you go. This is the parsha 49. To break this down, I know because a lot of people are. I'm wanting to get. People are asking me if we're doing any. I get the emails. Are we doing? Do we have any Bible studies? Do we have Torah studies? Do we have studies on things, the basics? And I'm working on a little curriculum for that. And with that, some of you guys, I'm going to be getting out some little stuff for y'all to kind of help y'all out, get kind of caught up. I'll put things up here like parsha. And people say, I don't know what a parsha is. And just to clarify it, this was a time frame that we look back when putting together the Tanakh. The Tanakh is what we call the Old Testament, is what a lot of people call it, the Old Testament. It's kind of an incorrect term calling it the Old Testament. I prefer calling it the Tanakh because that's what it is. It's the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. It's called the Hebrew Bible. When you classify one as old, and it just kind of sounds outdated, but there's a lot of commandments, there's a lot of covenants that still have not been completely fulfilled yet. They're still going to be fulfilled in the future. So technically it's not old, it's still actually working. Some of the things that God made promises to that he's still fulfilling in today. So technically it's not outdated or old. So we just call it the Tanakh. That is what people refer to as Old Testament. That was a coin that was phrased many years ago. But the Tanakh, the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. During the Ezra and Nehemiah time frame there, when Ezra put together the Tanakh, I was saying we should read the Torah, and people say, oh yeah, but what about the, look, the new covenant wasn't written yet during Ezra's time. He coordinated and he put together the scrolls, and he says, we need to read this in the course of a year to hide the words of his Torah and his ways on our heart. So he said, we'll divide it up into portions or parshas. And it's just a parsha is just a portion of the Torah, and it's divided up. And there's a weekly reading schedule. And he says if we all stay to the parsha, then we're all reading. So if I'm reading this parsha here, that means in Ukraine, where they have Messianic synagogues there, they're reading the same parsha we're reading. And then if we look at like even rabbinical Judaism, the people who don't even believe in the Messiah, they have not come. I call them pre-believers, which is a good coin. They're pre-believers. We're praying for them. We're praying that they do come into the fold of the Messiah and recognize who their Messiah is before it was badly mistranslated out through people. But when they can realize who their Messiah is and come into the fold, they're also reading these same parshas. So we have a lot in common. There's a lot of common ground. We don't want to build the walls and divide us. These are the things that unite us. So we stick to the Torah parshas, and that's what it is. This is the Torah parsha reading for this time. The Torah parsha that we have, Tetizei, we will see that in our reading. The title is always a word out of the very first line of the Torah Parsha for that thing, because they didn't say, hey, open to Shemot, Exodus, and turn to chapter this, verse this. That was not how it was read in the scrolls. They were actually just reading the scrolls, and they said, well, how do we know what part of the scroll we're reading? And they would say a title, and they were broken down into 52 titles, and they said, hey, if it's Tetizei, they say, I know where Tetizei is, that's when you go out. So they'll go to that Parsha. And they said, that's where that's found. So these titles are technically like chapter numbers. So if you're reading it, then if you can memorize the 52 Parsha titles, then you'll know, if you know them in order, then you see how that's how it studies. Over time, you're reading it. So when I say there's a Parsha, Tetizei, you say, okay, cool. I know where that's going to be at. We're going to open up to Deuteronomy 16. That's where we're going to go. So that's where to be found. So with that, Deuteronomy 16. We're going to verse Deuteronomy 16, 18. This is where this Parsha starts at. This is the reading cycle for this week. And with it says, when you go out, see, Tetizei, say, when you go out to war against your enemies, and Adonai your God hands them over to you, and you take prisoners. This is the very first sentence in this Torah Parsha. And I always bring these up. So if we're looking at that, Tetizei is right here in the yellow. When you go out, Tetizei. And so that would be what our Torah Parsha is called. It's when you go out to war against your enemies. Now I highlighted this one because this gets a little tricky for everybody. So if we look at that, Oev is like your word for enemy. So Oev is an enemy. But if it's enemies plural, you look at Oevim. But it doesn't say Oevim. Oevim is a plural form for enemies. But it doesn't say Oevim. It says it's got a cough at the end of that. Not cough like, but it's a cough. But, yeah, because my voice, yeah, cough. But it's but it also does have the guttural sound. We'll say with that too, though. But the Oevcha is what it would be pronounced, and that's because it's a possessive singular masculine form of Oev, which basically is saying not just plural enemies there, but they're actually your enemies. And it's a plural form of that. That's why you would see that. And the reason why it would catch somebody off guard, because if they're looking at this in the Hebrew letters and they're going, well, Avim would be plural for enemies. But these are plural enemies, but they're your enemies. And so that was where that would come from. And the reason why I would say you would want to catch that is because later on when it says your God, and then it says right here, it's not saying Adonai, like my God with the I at the end. It's saying your God, Adonai, your God. You see Elohim. Elohim is a plural form. That's the plurality of, not plural saying there's multiple gods, but there's a plural formality of his plurality and power. And it's Elohim. But it doesn't say Elohim. And so it has the same cough at the end of that, because it is your God. Your God handed over to you. So it's Eloheha, which would be in a second person masculine singular possessive suffix to your. I know. I don't even do English. You think I'm struggling on the Hebrew because I don't even do English right. And you start talking about singular possessive personal pronouns in the third party, I'm lost, man. But so with that is where we get that. So that's the reason why you will not see Elohim, but Eloha right there. So with that, I just spoke out a whole lot there. But that way, when it gets into reading things, when I'm doing my Hebrew studies and I'm having somebody explain to me and they say, well, that's just second person, this tense and that tense. And I'm going, man, you don't know. I wasn't doing good in English in high school. So it makes it rough when I'm trying to figure out the last letters that comes in these words. So it is a study. This is studying to figure out how we read these. So anyway.
Can I just?
Yeah.
I think the Parsha starts Deuteronomy 21, verse 10.
Is that?
I'm confused because you have 16, 18.
Did I mess that one up? That is my. You know what? Remember when I said that my slides got messed up and did things? I didn't update. Yeah, thank you. That's one of the things that I didn't get caught when my slides didn't save over, because I'll type them up and I'll use the last slides as a template. So yeah, so I'm just showing you how to cheat. So
We figured you were testing us.
Y'all passed this test so good. Y'all so good on this stuff. You know what? I don't even know why I'm up here. I ain't even know why I'm up here.
All your work.
Hey, so what I'm gonna do because I love y'all so much, I'm gonna edit this out of here and I'm gonna fix these slides before we load this up on the internet. So this little part, we're gonna cut this right out. We don't wanna look stupid. Or y'all wanna make me look stupid.
We got your back.
Appreciate that. Good looking out. So when this goes up, yeah, we're good. We're gonna do that. So take two. We're gonna be right here, be like, That would be Deuteronomy 20. That's what we're going to go with. So, let me go ahead and go to this. So we're looking at Parsha 49. Tetizei, at least that part is correct on here. We're looking at, there's 613 commandments, what we call mitzvot, as one commandment, 613-ish. Now I say 613-ish because a lot of people say some might have been repeated, it's just how they do. But overall, people have agreed that there's about 613 of these commandments in the Torah as all together. Now, out of those 613 in all of the Torah, this Torah Parsha that we're going through right now, 74 of those commandments and in the instructions that are there, 74 of them are actually in this Parsha. So this Parsha contains the most do's and do nots. And what I'm saying by commandments and things like that, if you were to take a highlighter and you're going to go through your Bible and it writes down, and you hear some part in here where it says, God said do this, or God said do that, God said don't do this, or do this, the do's and the don'ts, if you highlighted them all, you'd come up with about 613. And if you go through this Torah Parsha, you highlight them up, you'll see that about 74 of those are right here in this Parsha. So this is a big Parsha, is the do's and the don'ts. With that, I want to break these down for you because this is where if you can understand the teachings from here, it will make this part of the scripture so much easier because it puts things in context. People come to me and say, hey, I'd like to give out New Testament Bibles. And I did. I have a buddy of mine who says, hey, I got a hold of a bunch of New Testament Bibles. I said, I can't do nothing with them because I can't cross-reference. You know what I'm saying? I can't just get out a New Testament Bible. I know the Gideons, I used to think that was a great thing to put them out there, but I think giving half a Bible is just kind of, it's not someplace somebody needs to start, because if you just read this without this, there's no context there. So you really have to have the context. I really think that people need to start on this side. A lot of people will just start with people that say, what's the first thing when somebody comes to know Messiah, the first thing they want to do is like, oh, we'll read through John, read through this and this and this. I say, and a lot of people say John, and I thought that was good back years and years and years ago. Like, oh yeah, read through John because it schemes things.
With Genesis.
Yeah. So if you're reading through John or any of the Gospels without context of what they're quoting, because it's quoted a lot. Deuteronomy was the most quoted from Jesus. Yeshua, he quoted Deuteronomy a lot. So if you are reading that without the actual book that he was teaching from, now you're losing context. I know he's putting things in context, but you really need to have a foundation to know what he's teaching on. And a lot of people think, well, he was profound because he taught on new things. We're going to learn he did not teach on new things. He actually brought up the laws of where people were getting off the trail. They were getting off the path, and he was bringing them back to the path. But you got to know what the path looks like first. So with that, I want to break these two things down for you: light commandments and heavy commandments. Okay, they call them light mitzvot and heavy mitzvot, and a lot of people have never heard this before. I've heard it before in a lot of the studies. I hear a lot of this. In synagogue. When I go to an actual rabbinical synagogue and we're doing feasts and doing things, they get excited. Who wants to perform a mitzvah? Who wants to do a mitzvah today? And that's what they'll tell the kids. We're going to perform a mitzvah, and they get happy about it. The kids are like, I want to perform a mitzvah. And that's great because they get so excited because kids can easily do light mitzvahs. And you go, well, what is a light mitzvah? All right, well, let's do that. I will first go through some of the things, but first I want you to know that it's not saying that one is greater per se. We do know that some are what Yeshua said, what is the greatest commandment? So they know the greatest commandment because the greatest, the first and the second, correspond to the whole Torah as one, as the whole laws as one. But what we want to look at is which ones are light, which means they're just easier to do that don't require a whole lot of effort. That is a light mitzvah. All right, so we're going to go through that. But I want to clarify this first. For a person who keeps the Torah, this comes out of the book of Yaakov, James, chapter 2. I got that one right up there. You can check that one. For a person who keeps the whole Torah, yet stumbles at one point, has become guilty of breaking them all. For the one who said, don't commit adultery, also said, don't murder. Now, if you don't commit adultery but do murder, you have become a transgressor of the whole Torah, which means you break one, you break them all. All right? So with that said, they're all important, but they're just so much easier to do. I will pull up a page from My Jewish Learning. This is just, this is rabbinical Judaism. This is not Messianic Judaism. I'm throwing this out there because you get to see the other side, that the rabbinical Judaism is actually teaching on light and heavy mitzvahs, which you will see that a lot of the teachings they have, this is where discernment comes in at. A lot of the teachings they have, we hold to because they're actually right about a lot of things. They're actually right about a lot of things. The church is right about a lot of things. You know, they kind of overlap a lot. And sometimes you'll see that we agree, that the church side of things and then the rabbinical side of things, you'll see that how both of them, when they look at things, they'll agree on certain things. And this is one of the agreements that we'll actually kind of have with this. It says, I hope y'all can read that. Wow, that's small. It's up there. I'll just read it out loud for you guys. Still another classification is between light and heavy precepts. That is, those that can easily be carried out and that require much less effort and are costly to carry out. This is in the ethnics of the fathers. The ethnic of fathers is just part of the Mishnah. The Mishnah is containing ethnical teachings of the rabbinical Jewish traditions, composed of sayings from Jewish sages. This is ranging anywhere between 300 years before Christ to 200 years after Christ. So this is actually during the time of Christ that they're putting this together. That's the same time that they're putting around the Babylonian Talmud. The Talmud and the teachings of the sages and things like that are being passed down. These are actually during the time of Christ, which is very important to remember. So this was getting put together at the same time Christ was teaching. All right, the Messiah was teaching. So we're going to save that for a little later too. That's where he says, but you have heard, but I say, because they're putting together the Talmud. They're putting together the Mishnah the same time that he's going around teaching. He says, you have heard, but I say. Basically he's saying, I say get back on the path. You're going off because you're hearing what other people are saying, but I'm telling you what to do according to God's laws. So with that, the advice is given to treat light precepts as seriously as to treat the heavy ones. They're saying they're equal in value, but some are just easier to do. Since you do not know the reward of the precepts, and the performance of the light precepts might win a greater reward than the heavy precepts. So some precepts actually say, and this is from My Jewish Learning, they'll say lighter precepts will actually have some of them that will say that there's a reward for doing a light precept. So do the light precepts because it's rewarding to you. But then they also say the same thing that we would say. It says, against all calculations, attitude standings for rabbinical doctrine, going on to this, of doing God's will without any ulterior motives. Meaning, don't do them just for the reward. It's just a reward for just doing them. But don't just do them just because of the reward. It says, for that, it is advanced to carry out the precepts, even if the motivation is not entirely pure. He was saying that your motivation, if you're doing it just to get the reward, you're doing it, and you're doing it for the reward. You're not being pure about this. Do it because you want to do this. This is what makes the joy in doing these precepts, of obeying the commandments. If you carry out the precepts, will eventually lead to performance out of pure motivation. The obligation to keep the precepts begin when the boy reaches the age of 13 or 12, and the girl at 12 is talking about bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and things like that. The rabbinical ideal is to carry out the precepts joyfully. It says down here, joyfully, and generally assuming that Jews have a simcha, which is the joy, the celebrations, the joyous celebrations, shel mitzvah, is being the joy of the mitzvah. That even sinners, this is where it gets really cool, and even sinners in Israel are full of mitzvot, like a pomegranate is full of seeds. I thought that was beautiful because it says that even the sinners can still perform mitzvahs. Even sinners still have something in them that they can do that pleases God. He says, we all have it in us. We can all do it, and some are so easy. You don't have to be a holy somebody walking around to do something that's pleasing to God. Even a sinner can stop what he's doing and say, you know what? I can do something nice for somebody. I can do something. I can still do something that is good. So with that said, there's light, and then there's heavy. So with that, look at the Psalms real quick. Psalm 119, like what we read today. How happy, Ashrei, how happy are those whose way of life is blameless, who live by the Torah of Adonai. How happy are those who observe his instructions, who seek him wholeheartedly. It's a heart issue. I want to do them. It's not because I have to do them. It's I want to do them. I'm excited about it. It's good stuff. I don't do it for the reward. I feel good helping people. I feel good doing things for stuff. You know, I get to be the messenger of God walking around. And I'm meaning that lightly, of just saying that I get to be a representation of the kingdom of heaven. Doing something nice, doing something for people, praising God. So let me give you an example of a heavy mitzvah. Heavy mitzvah will be next lesson. and we're going to look at the next Torah parsha next week. That's going to come out of Deuteronomy 26. It's later on. It's after the 21. Bekarim basically just means first fruits. First fruits, Bekarim. You might recognize Bekarim. Bekor means firstborn. So Bekarim is first fruits. So this is like your firstborn of your crops. So this is your first fruits. We're going to look at that real quick. And that's on our next Torah parsha, but we're going to kind of get a little ahead on that one. When you have come to the land of Adonai, and this is what it's talking about, Becharim, is your first fruits. All right. This is what you would do in that festival, during that festival. When you have come to the land of Adonai, your God is giving you as your inheritance. Take possession of it and settle there. You are to take the first fruits, the Becharim, of all the crops and the ground yields, which you will harvest from your land that Adonai your God is giving you. Put them in a basket and go to the place where Adonai your God will choose to have his name live. You will approach the Kohen holding office at the time and say to him, today I declare to Adonai your God that I have come to the land Adonai swore to our ancestors that he would give us. The Kohen would take the basket from your hand and put it down in front of the altar of Adonai your God. And then it goes on to say, then in the presence of Adonai your God, you are to say. So this farmer is going to have to say this. This is what he would say. He says, my ancestor was a nomad from Aram. He went down into Egypt, few in number, and stayed. And there he became a great, strong, populous nation. But the Egyptians treated us badly, and oppressed us and imposed harsh slavery on us. So we cried out to Adonai, the God of our ancestors. Adonai heard us and saw our misery, toil, and oppression. And Adonai brought us out of Egypt with a strong hand and stretched out arm, with great terror and the signs of wonders. Now he has brought us to this place to give us the land flowing with milk and honey. Why milk and honey? Well, because bees populate the flower, which produces the fruit. So that's the bee part of it, and the honey. So it's talking about like with the milk and honey. So we're looking at the honey. That's the bees. That's the population of your fruits, the crops. And then it says flowing with milk. It's cattle. That's what we're saying. The milk and honey. This is a fertile land. It says, "Give us this fertile land." Then it goes on to say, therefore, as you see, I have brought the first fruits of the land which you, Adonai, has given me. You are then to put the basket down before Adonai your God, prostrate yourself before Adonai your God, and take joy. It says, and take joy in all the good that Adonai your God has given you. Your household, the Levi, because you're giving them a portion, and the foreigner that's living with you. So take joy in giving to them. And take joy in what God has been given to you. That is what he is to do. That is the Bekarim. That is the first fruits. And if he can fulfill that, that's a mikvah. That's a mitzvah he is actually performing for God. And that's a heavy one. Why is it heavy? So why is it heavy? Well, physically, the farmer would have to select the first fruits. He has to go around to all of his stuff. So he's selecting a fruit before it even comes into, he's not harvesting yet. This is when it first comes in. He goes, oh, these are the best. These are the best of my first ones I got. I don't even know what's going to come out of these plants, but I'm going to give the best that I've got before the harvest came. He also had to bring it to the temple of Jerusalem. That's a pilgrimage. And you say, well, Becharim in the first part, first fruits, it's not a pilgrim, because there's 3 pilgrimages. We got Passover, Pesach, we got Shavuot, and we have Sukkot. Those are the pilgrimages. But I'm talking about Becharim. But Becharim, why is it a pilgrimage? You got to take it to the temple. Well, if you're there and it's during Pesach, during the time of Becharim, you've already traveled. So when you're going to go to Passover, if you're doing a wave offering of, like, say if you're doing your wave offering of barley, you're going to have to bring that stuff with you. You know, you're carrying this stuff. And then when you go to Shavuot, you still have to bring this stuff. So if you notice it, all of the pilgrimages have to do with food. It have to do with harvests. It has to do with crops. So all 3 of those are a type of crop, a harvest. It's crazy that when the harvest comes in, everybody's going to go to Israel and Jerusalem. It's crazy. Just throwing that out there. Yeah. Yes, the people harvest too. So it's foreshadowing. So he would have to make a pilgrimage. He'd have to bring this to the temple. So with that, he'd have to put in some work to that. Spiritually, the farmer recited the history to the people of the Egyptian bondage, to the promised land. He had to recite all that, acting on his faith and giving the first of his harvest without assurance of the future harvest. He doesn't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to give you my first part. So he actually had to act on his faith and giving thanks and acknowledging Hashem and his provision. So he had to act on faith. He actually had to put his faith to work. So this was something, he had to carry it. And he didn't even know what the future was going to bring. So that was even spiritual. This is pretty hard to do. You had to prepare. This wasn't something that you just, oh, I'm just going to do this today. No, this was a lot of preparation. So this is a heavy mitzvah. It's heavy. So now I want to give you a good version of something light. And that's in our Torah parsha today. This is a light mitzvah. If you are walking along and you happen to see a bird's nest in a tree or on the ground with chicks or eggs, and the mother bird is sitting on the chicks or the eggs, you are not to take the mother with the chicks. Do not take both of them. That actually comes from Leviticus 22:28, where it says no animal is to be slaughtered on the same day as the young. So it's actually where it's kind of repeated, but they're making a part of that. So they're saying if you see a chick or see a bird on a nest and it's got eggs, shoo the mother away before you take the eggs. And don't take both of them. Don't be greedy. Just take the eggs, take what you need, but shoo the mother away. And they say a lot of that has a lot of connection with the mother actually having connection with feeling a certain way towards their young. You know, they're protective. They love their young, and you're just going to take it right there in front of them. That's rude, you know? So it says, you must let the mother go before you take the chicks for yourself, so that things will go well with you and you will prolong your life. This mitzvah is basically like, oh, look, there's a bird on a nest with some eggs. I want an omelet. All right. Shoo the motherboard away and get the eggs. You performed a mitzvah. But then the crazy thing is, this is a light mitzvah. This is technically the lightest mitzvah in all the Torah. If you were to ask rabbinical Jews or anything like that, you're going into studying for the sages, you want to know about light mitzvahs, this is the one they refer to, because this is the easiest, lightest one to do. Shoo the motherboard away before you take the eggs. How long did that take? I don't know. But you performed a mitzvah. But the reward of this is very strong. The reward of this is very strong because it says, and you will prolong your life. Doing that will prolong your life. Not guarantee that, you know, nothing will happen, but I'm saying it prolongs your life. And wondering why it would prolong your life. So with that, this is known as the lightest mitzvah. The lightest and with a powerful reward. Why would it prolong your life? But where else have you heard this mitzvah from? And I want to kind of share some things with you. Honor your mother and father so that you may live long in the land that Adonai is giving, your God is giving you. It says, honor your mother and father and your life will be prolonged. You'll live a long life. And the crazy thing that this mikvah and that one is actually connected to parents with children, just like the mother bird with the baby eggs and the chicks, showing respect to the parents. Also, it goes into Ephesians. We'll go into that. Children, what you should do in union with the Lord is to obey your parents, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment that embodies a promise. It embodies a promise of a long life, so that you may go well with you and that you may live long in the land. Showing honor to parents and respecting the mother bird. It has a promise to it. And you go, okay, great. I want to show you all something that Ramban says. Ramban is the... if you look up that and you want to see a commentary, this one has so many commentaries in the Torah. This is rabbinical Judaism, all right? But I want to share this. And the reason why Ramban is up there, Ramban is a acronym. Rabbi Moshe ben... so yeah, I broke it down right here for you. I want to make sure that you can see that. So that's how you get Ramban. Nachman is the father, so it's Moses ben Nachman, the son of Nachman. Rabbi, we call him Ramban. And this is the commentary. It says, these commandments are meant to include compassion in people, not as some think that God himself pities the birds and animals because God permits people to use and slaughter animals for their own need. Rather, such commandments teach that people should accustom themselves to act merciful, to the little acts of just being merciful. And that's where you should start. Like I said, you try to start with your prayer life. Start small. And those small things add up. This is a baby bird on the nest. Start small, being merciful. So teaching people should accustom themselves to acting merciful. So it says, and Ramban is actually a medieval Jewish scholar born in 1194 in Spain. Just to give you a little background on that guy if you want to look him up. And when you're looking things up, especially if you get digging into the Talmud and stuff like that, we might agree on a lot of things. Some things we might disagree on, but use your discernment with that. Back it up with Scripture. Back it up with what Yeshua said. So who else taught on mercy? I'm going to share a little bit of who else taught on mercy. So seeing the crowds, and this is from the book of Matthew. This is Matisyahu from the book of Matthew. It says, seeing the crowds, Yeshua walked up a hill. After he sat down, his Talmudim, this is his disciples, came to him, and he began to speak. And this is what he taught them. We're going to go through this. Have you ever heard of the blessed statements? They call them the Beatitudes. And they use the word blessed. In some versions, you'll see the word blessed be, and they'll talk about the blessed statements. Ashrei is what would actually been used. So in some versions, you'll say happy is the person. Happy is the person. So Ashrei would have been the word that Yeshua would have used at that time. He would have said happy is the person. But it's more than happy. It's a real deep happiness. It's a joy. And that's the reason why some people would use blessed as a blessed statement. But it's the Ashrei statements. Ashrei statements. These are the happy statements, the deep happiness statements. And I put Ashrei up there so you'd see how I spell it. This is what some people call the Beatitudes and what they call the Sermon on the Mount. No, man, here goes that little noise thing again. Turn that down some. Somebody might be trying to text me or something on here. All right. Not today, Satan. So with that, these are the Beatitudes or the Sermon on the Mount. As we go through this, how blessed or happy, Ashrei, are those who show mercy, for they will be shown mercy. Simple teaching. How blessed, Ashrei, how happy, how joyous are those who show mercy, for they will be shown mercy. I'm going to look at Ephesians chapter 2 real quick. But God is so rich in what? Mercy, and loves us with such intense love that even when we were dead because of our acts of disobedience, getting off the path, he brought us to life. And we're talking about living out a long life. Showing mercy brings about a long life. It says along with the Messiah. How long? By his grace that you have been delivered. A very long life if you follow the mercy of God and understand what mercy is about, because it's through his mercy that he gives us a long life. And where do I see that from? For at one time, and this is Titus 3, for at one time we too were foolish and disobedient. Really? Yeah, I'll repeat that. At one time, we too were foolish and disobedient. And some of us are still foolish and we're still disobedient. Deceived and enslaved by the variety of passions and pleasures. That is our wants and our desires. We spent our lives in evil and in envy. People hated us and we hated each other. But when the kindness and love of mankind, of God our deliverer, was revealed, he delivered us. It was not on the ground of any righteous deed that we had done. That means nothing that we done. It says you follow his ways because you want to, not because you have to. There's nothing that your righteous deeds or something you did or performing a mikveh ever did for you. It was because of the deeds that he did for us. It's not anything that we could do. We do them because we want to do them, not because we have to do them. It's a heart issue. It says you're no better than anyone else that does them. You say, oh, well, I do this or I do this. They're all one. They're all one. And just because you perform certain mikvahs that somebody else didn't perform does not make you any better than the person who did not perform those mikvahs. We're no better than them. But we are better off. We are better off. If you do that, you're better off, but you're not better. You're not better than them. But on the grounds of his own mercy. It was by his mercy. And through his mercy gives us a prolonged life. And I'll show you that we keep on reading in Titus. He did it by means of the mikveh of rebirth, and the renewal brought about by the Ruach HaKodesh. We were talking about that the other day. It's the baptisms, but not a physical in the water, but of the Ruach HaKodesh, of the Spirit, whom he poured out on us generously through Yeshua the Messiah, our deliverer. He did it so that by his grace we might come to be considered righteous by God and become heirs, which is the certain hope of eternal life. This is your everlasting life. Through his mercy and his grace, that's where we see a prolonged life. So it's funny that through grace, our lives will be long, everlasting long, and our mercy should reflect his mercy. So if he's teaching us mercy on the light mitzvahs, then we go, oh, okay, start something small. Learn how to be merciful because your God is merciful. Your reward in doing good and following his ways and commandments are commandments here are nothing in comparison to the reward of putting your trust in God and his righteousness. That reward is that will be forever. So it's saying that the reward you get from performing a mikvah or doing good, that is small in comparison to the rewards of just putting your faith in God, because the rewards of that are great. They're great. They're better. So with that, after the Ashrei, the blessed statements that he gave, right after he was giving the blessed statements, the Ashrei statements, he went on to say this: you are a light for the world, and a town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Likewise, when people light a lamp, they don't cover it into a bowl, but put it on a lampstand so that it shines for everyone in the house to see. In this way, let your light shine before people so that they may see the good things that you do and praise your Father in heaven. Now, I'm going to put this on blast, okay? I got some guys on blast. Now, if you guys are in school, told you I was going to share a little something right here. I'm going to stop for a moment on this one. People are watching you, and they're going to call you out. They're going to call you out in class. They're going to call you out at work. And you're going to feel that you're getting picked on. But the really crazy thing is they're watching you, and they're going to put a spotlight on you, and they're going to see how you're going to react to it. And a lot of times they're testing you, you know. So when you are put in the spotlight, that is your time to shine. That is your time to be a witness. Because whatever you say and do, you're going to be representing the kingdom of heaven. You're going to be representing God's kingdom. And the moment you become a follower, and the moment that happens, you're going to realize you're about to have a lot of spotlights put on you. A lot of people are looking. Because you do something wrong, you're going to be giving a wrong impression of the kingdom of heaven. No pressure. It's just the kingdom of heaven on your shoulders. No, but this is your time to shine. This is your time to show mercy. This is your time to say, okay, I got you. What do you need me to do? What do you need me to do to get better? What do you need me to do? What are you looking for? Work on the communication with the people putting you on the spotlight, because some people put you on the spotlight. I'll tell you this, I'll share a funny one with you. Yeah, I'll share a funny one with you. Why not? I got time for a funny one. This happened to me yesterday. Because people are going to know when you do something, it's what you do and what you don't do, okay? Now, people putting you in the spotlight, they're going to call you out. Just remember, all eyes on you. We have to remember this and represent accordingly. Now, I might have said something yesterday to somebody that might not have came across, but it was in the context of being used is all right. But I'm sarcastic, all right? We're going to go funny with this one. My bosses went out to eat. They wanted me to go out to eat with them, right? We went to a barbecue place. It was all good. I like to eat the brisket. I had brisket potato. Good. Found out it was very expensive. Won't be doing that very much anymore. Prices have gone up. But with that, I was ordering and I was like, just get me a brisket potato. Be all good. And then I asked, does bacon bits come on that? And they said, yeah. I said, all right, just no bacon bits. We're going to take the bacon bits off of that. No big deal. All right. That's just me. Okay. I'm not going to eat the bacon bits on the stuff. And then I was like, all right, cool. My bosses, now they already know. They're like, no, Scott, you don't eat the pork and stuff. You don't eat pork. All right, it's all good. They know it. They recognize this, whatever. Nobody makes a big deal out about it. But the other guy is another boss. He's not in my department, but he's cool with me. But he was like, bacon bits on that. You want no bacon bits on that? And he somehow he just liked to keep on egging with that stuff. So we sitting down. He was talking about, oh, what's bacon bits got wrong with you? Blah, blah. I was like, I just don't like eating pork, man. I just don't eat pork, man. It's all good. And the other bosses are just like, oh man, he's starting in on Scott. Right? So I'm just eating. I just want to eat my brisket and potato, man. That's all I want to do. So he just every time he got a comment, he got to throw something about bacon bits on the thing. Like, man, you know, bacon bits are great, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like going to change the subject. My man just went on a cruise. I was like, hey man, you was out for a while. And no, he went on a cruise. He was on a beach or doing something. And I was like, hey man, how was your trip? It was great, man. Had a lot of lobster and had bacon bits all over it. I said, you did you? I said, yeah. And he started telling me all the things he ate, and everything he ate, he wanted to put bacon bits on. I was like, oh, okay, that's great. And we're getting in the car, and my boss is like, man, he's Scott on about this stuff. I said, man, yeah, he's just talking about, bacon bits on my crab, bacon bits on my lobster. I said, man, it sounds like you had diarrhea too. And my boss was like, Scott, here you go. But you just saying these comments, he was like, man, it's like, come on, get in the car, man, let's go. But I don't want to say nothing, but people are going to notice this stuff to you, But, I say little sly comments to the people and joke on back with it. But, but the thing is people are going to put you on the spot. And you do something that is outside the norm of what the world would consider normal. And you start doing things that's maybe just in the Bible or something. And I don't sit here and say, well, I'm better than you or nothing like that. Let's just put it this way. And I shared this story once before, and it's probably good to reshare the same story. But some of the same guys, this was a year or so ago, we went out to eat, and the breakfast food that we got had bacon, and I was like, I don't want to eat bacon. And instead of just saying leave the bacon off, I asked some of the guys, like, do you like the sausage, do you like the bacon? Which one do you like? And the guy's like, oh, I like the bacon. I was like, well, just order the bacon and put it on his plate because he'll have extra meat. And I was like, oh. And these guys, they don't eat cows. They don't, that's not what they eat. And no big deal. But they were like, okay. And so that I did not know opened up a good conversation because they wanted to know. They said, so you don't eat, because they opened the conversation. We're at the same booth. And I was like, no, you eat it. You're good. And they was like, oh, you don't eat this. And I was like, so what do you feel about that? And I said, well, I know where you're getting at with that question. Do you think I'm going to go to hell if I eat pork? And they're like, yeah. I said, if I was going to go to hell for eating pork, would I give it to you? And they just looked at me, and I was like, I wouldn't give it to my friends if I felt that was going to send me to hell. This is where I'm at in my walk, and this is what I'm doing. I was like, you're at in your walk, what you're doing with God. I was like, so you can have the extra meat, but for me, this is where I'm at in my walk. And they were like, oh, wow. And that probably summed it up so well for them. And I was like, this is where I'm at in my walk. I'm not judging you. I'm not going to put you down for this stuff. This is where I'm at, But if that was going to cause me to go to hell and be completely separated from God for eating this stuff, I sure enough would not give it to you. I was like, y'all are my friends. And they were like, oh, okay. So just be merciful to other people, be respectful to other people, love them. Love them, pray for them. They're good people. These are some really good people. They go all the way to help me. They're really good people. I love them. They're my friends, Wow, I went way off the story. Yeah. So your good works are to be a witness to your Creator. What you do should reflect your Creator. By these good works they see, they should see it in you, and it should reflect your God. With that, we're going to move to Matthew. So he goes on. Actually, it's back there. This is not going on. This is going the same verses. Don't think that I have come to abolish the Torah or the prophets. A lot of churches, and I'm not bashing, a lot of them don't really get this far in Scripture. They'll stop right here and be like, good lesson for the day. Let's go. Hold up. Let's go one more verse or two. Don't think that I've come to abolish the Torah or the prophets. No, I didn't do that. I have come not to abolish, but to complete. Bring it to fulfillment. It says, yes, indeed, I tell you that until the heavens and the earth pass away, which last time I checked is still here, not so much as a yud or a stroke will pass from the Torah. Not until everything that must happen has happened, which it has not happened yet. We are watching some things unfold, but it hasn't happened yet. We go on right after that. So whoever disobeys the least of the mitzvot, wait a minute here. Now we got context. What's a least of a mitzvot? That's a light mitzvot. That's a light mitzvot. Yeshua is teaching on heavy and light mitzvots. But now we got context because now we know what heavy and light mitzvots are. He says, for the least of the mitzvots, whoever disobeys the least of the mitzvots and teaches others to do so will also be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever obeys them and so teaches will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Now you sit there and you think to yourself, wow, that's deep, that's crazy. Something I don't want you to pass up. They will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. It does not say that they won't be there. It doesn't say they won't be there. Okay? So just because somebody might have had that bacon, that ain't meaning they ain't going to be there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just using that as an example. I just threw something out there as an example. But I'm just saying just the least. if they teach, they'll still be there. They still have their trust in God, but they're just not teaching people to be on the path. It doesn't say that they're not saved. It's not a salvational issue. They're just saying they'll be there. I don't want to be called the least, I want to go and be like, no, I tried. I did what I could be. I'm going to be there either way, but I want to be useful. I want to be used here. I want to be used for God in doing what He's trying to do, and not just spreading just the gospel, but showing the light, being a light to the world, and showing who a physical representation of Yeshua, a physical representation of God. I want to be that, to show the light. So it will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness is far greater than that of the Torah teachers and the Pharisees, the Pharisee, that you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven unless your righteousness is above them. And people say, "Oh, you go to a vacation Bible school or something like that. Oh, those bad Pharisees." No, he just said unless your righteousness is greater than theirs, because they have their righteousness. It's self-centered righteousness stuff with them, but a lot of them, Nicodemus. Some of these guys are good guys. So not all of them are bad. He's just bumping heads with them because people say, oh, he argued with them the most. No. You don't understand this. He argued with them the most because he loved them the most. It wasn't because he hated them. He expected better from them because they know it. They're the teachers. He expected the most out of them. That's why he harshed on them. That's why he put them in the spotlight. It's because he knew that they could be better. They could do better. They should understand better. They should teach better. He didn't because he hated them. He didn't hate the Pharisees. The Pharisees were the ones that wanted to put him on the cross and kill them. But he loved them even more. He's like, you are the teachers. You're supposed to know this more. He didn't hate them. They were enemies in him, but he wasn't their enemy. He was their redeemer. So with that, unless your righteousness is far greater than that of the Torah teachers and the Pharisees, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. And just to set this straight, it says Yeshua did not have new laws. There was when he said the least of the mitzvot. He goes, no, these are God's laws. He didn't bring in new laws. He came to complete them. But we're going to go on to that real quick. It says, you have heard that our fathers were told, do not murder, and that anyone commits murder will be subject to judgment. But I tell you, I'm just bringing this verse right up here to let you know that through that he says, you have heard, but I tell you. They're building this Talmud. They're building, the sages are taking the words and telling you what God is meaning. And Yeshua's like, no, I will tell you what God means. I say this. You have heard from them, but I say this. So he got even deeper. He got on a heart issue about this stuff. Yeshua did not have new laws, but you have heard, but I say the new laws. They're the same laws. His commandments are the same as his Father's commandments. You have heard was from the rabbis. They were getting off path. And he was saying, no, I say this. You heard that, but get back on path. But he was talking about what it would be if you did go off path. And then if we turn to the book of John, chapter 14, Philip said to him, Lord, show us the Father, and it will be enough for us. Yeshua replied to him, have I been with you so long without you knowing me, Philip? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. So how can you say, show us the Father? They were a chud. That's what got him in trouble. He is a chud. His laws are the same laws. You got to remember that. Yeshua said, follow my commandments. His commandments aren't any different than his Father's. And it shows right here, it says, don't you believe that I am united with the Father and the Father is united with me? What I am telling you, I am not saying on my own initiative. The Father living in me is doing his own work. These are the same laws. These are the same regulations. He says, my ways are his ways. People say, what would Jesus do? I always say, well, what did he do? What did he do? I follow him not because I have to, but because it's a joy to. I want to follow him. I want to follow Yeshua. Whatever he's going to do, I'm going to do. Whether it be Jewish or not, we're just going to do it. It's all right. Nike, just do it. So we keep going on. The Yochanan says, trust me that I am united with the Father and the Father is united with me. But if you can't, then trust because of the works themselves. He says, now you see me doing good works. Yes, indeed, I tell you that whoever trusts in me will also do the work I do. Indeed, he will do greater ones because I am going to the Father. In fact, whatever you ask for in my name, I will do, so the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask me for something in my name, I will do it. A lot of people go crazy with this. Oh man, hashtag blessed, give me a Ferrari in my name. All right, so if you're at a job, I work at a job, and I go to my boss and say, hey boss, if you can give me this, my job will make it a lot easier to do my job. And he'll go, you know what, I think you're right, I'm gonna get that to you so you can do your job easier, all right? I start asking him for things, and he starts making my job easier. If you have a good boss, if you have a good boss, then he'll provide things to make your job easier. He'll make your job more simpler, make it easier task to do, machining or tooling or whatever you need, programs. He will help to make your job easier. Just ask him, all right? Sometimes you can go to him and say, hey boss, can we have a pizza party one day? Well, that's not gonna make your job any easier, but you know what? I'll go ahead and do that. A little bonus, that's fine. You ask him things because it builds morale, and that's good. So sometimes bosses go above and beyond for them. But the main goal is to get them things where their job gets done. And when their jobs keep going really, really, really good, sometimes he goes, maybe you can have a little pizza party. And that's fine, a little pizza party, you know? You get a little stuff. That's normal. That's how we would do it. If God has something here for us to do, if he has tasked us with something as a job here, we say, God, this would probably make the job easier. And God's like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe I'll help you out, get you something that you need. You asked me for that to make your job easier, but it's got to correlate with your job. It's got to correlate with that job. So the same thing, if I ask for things that help me get my job done, if he doesn't, well, maybe that wasn't my job in the first place. Maybe I'm asking something that ain't what I need for my job. Maybe that was for somebody else's job. So I need to ask God for things that I know God's put me in tasks to do. And I wonder how sometimes some pastors will have 10-bedroom houses and no kids and a Land Rover to get them to church. Now, I'm granted, I wrote this down in my notes. I'm not trying to bash them too bad. But the thing is did those come from God, or did someone else give them to them for compromising Scripture? So you got to use discernment on that stuff. Now, I got 3 slides left. All right, I got 3 slides left. This is one of them.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah,
I was so hoping you were
I got 7 lines left.
okay. So that's one of my slides. I'm going to my next 2. All right, here we go. So this is John. This is a small slide. Here we go. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. His commandments are the same as his Father's. There's no different. He says, follow me. If you follow him, he's doing what his Father told him to do. If you follow him, then we're just following the same path. We're on the same path. And I'll end with this one. This is out of Lamentations. But in my mind, I keep returning to something that gives me hope, that the grace of Adonai is not exhausted, that his compassion has not ended. On the contrary, they are new every morning. How great is your faithfulness. Adonai is all I have. There's something about that. It's all I have. That's all I have. And it's probably, and to be honest, that's all I desire. When you realize that shalom, what it means, you want that peace, he's the only one that can give it. Adonai is all I got. And I say, therefore, I will put my hope in him. Amen. Just trying to keep us on the path.
That's it.
So with that, we'll go ahead and sing us a nice little song. And we'll close in some prayer. We'll turn to page 8 for the V'nei Hemar. And it is said, the Lord shall be king over all the world. And on that day, the Lord will be one, and his name, one. V'nei Hemar v'haya Adonai l'melech o kol haaretz bayom hahu yihei Adonai echad Ushemo echad. Amen. All right. God, we come before you today as we're heading out and getting back into the world. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this blessing. Thank you for your ways that we follow. Thank you for sending Yeshua the visual representation. As I like to put it, the visual, when we're following the instructions in the instruction manual, we have pictures to look at. And we go by those examples of the pictures. Thank you for that. thank you for loving us enough to send him. Thank you for loving us that he would die for us. That shows love. But showing us that he's risen again, that we will rise too. He's coming back. We know these are the hopes. You're all we have, and we put that hope in you. That's true. At the end of the day, you are all we have. And that's why we hope in you. Thank you for your love, and you're guiding us through this. This is just great. Let us be that light, and we want to be a good light. I know sometimes we fail at that, but I pray that we grow to be a great light for you in this community. Light to the world, in our world. And it's in Yeshua's name we pray, amen. All right. May Adonai bless you and keep you. May Adonai make his face shine on you and show you his favor. May Adonai look upon you and give you peace. Yevarech Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Yor Adonai pano v'lecha ve'hunecha. Yisa Adonai pano v'lecha ve'asem lecha. Shalom. Shabbat shalom, guys. All right.